Hello, everyone. This is B-Tech. B. B. Tech. ASMR. And welcome to tonight's video, where you may have already recognized it is going to be a soft-spoken video. Now, I haven't really done many soft-spoken videos in the past. I've actually only attempted soft-spoken once before, and I believe it was a positive affirmations video, but that's been about quite a few months now, so I thought it would be good to try to attempt another soft-spoken video, just because I've seen quite a few people request it, and it is quite a widely loved trigger, really, and I would like to expand my range of triggers on the channel, so I think soft-spoken would be good for tonight's video. And I was thinking, well, I want to do soft-spoken, but what could I actually do soft-spokenly? And I thought it would be brilliant to do another book reading. So tonight I grabbed a book from my sister's room, because I don't actually have any books of my own. I only have graphic novels, and I wanted to read actual stories, and I stumbled across this book in my sister's room. And it's called Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls. And I thought this would be the perfect choice, because we're trying to get you to sleep. So I thought some good night, some bedtime stories would be ideal. So basically this book hosts a range of short, like one-page stories of all these historical and important women in history. And I think it just kind of explains, it's kind of like a summary, sort of their importance and impact in history. Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls reinvents fairy tales, inspiring children with the stories of 100 heroic women from Elizabeth I to Serena Williams. Illustrated by 60 female artists from every corner of the globe, this is the most funded original book in the history of crowdfunding. So it's got a really cool idea behind it. So I think it would be good to go through some of these women's stories to make you guys fall asleep. And I do have a glass of water with me, just to cleanse my throat if it dries up too much, essentially. And the book makes some really good sounds as well. So let's get into some of these stories. And here are the illustrations which they were talking about on the blurb. Blurb. Is that what it's called? I don't know, I haven't. As you can tell, I don't read books very often. So this first fairy tale, is about Ada Lovelace, a mathematician. Once upon a time, there was a girl named Ada who loved machines. She also loved the idea of flying. She studied birds to work out the perfect balance between wing size and body weight. She tested out materials and tried out several designs. She never managed to soar like a bird, but she created a beautiful book full of drawings called Flyology, where she recorded all her findings. One night, Ada went to a ball. There she met a grumpy older mathematician named Charles Babbage. Ada was a brilliant mathematician herself, and the two soon became good friends. Charles invited Ada to see a machine he had invented. He called it the difference engine. It could automatically add and subtract numbers. No one had ever done that before. Ada was hooked. What if we built a machine that could make more complicated calculations, she said. Excited, Ada and Charles started working. The machine was huge and it required an enormous steam engine. Ada wanted to go further. What if this machine could play music and show letters as well as numbers? She was describing a computer way before modern computers were invented. Ada wrote the first computer program in history. Wow. December 10th, 1815, November. Oh, okay, so the bottom is, it shows when they were alive and when they died, essentially. The next story. Alec Weck, a supermodel. Once upon a time, there was a girl named Alec who would stop by a mango tree to get a snack on her way from school. In Alec's village, there was no running water nor electricity. She had to walk to a well for drinking water, but she and her family lived a simple, happy life. Then a terrible war broke out and Alec's life changed forever. As the warning sirens wailed all over the village, Alec and her family had to run away from the fighting. It was the rainy season. The rain had flooded the bridges across the bridges across it were underwater, and Alec could not swim. She was terrified of drowning, but her mum helped her cross safely to the other side. Along the way, Alec's mum traded packets of salt for food and passports because they didn't have any money. They managed to escape from the war and made their way to London. One day, she was in a park when a talent scout from a famous modelling agency approached her. He wanted to recruit Alec as a model. Alec's mother did not want to hear about it, but the agent persisted, and she finally agreed. Alec looked so different from any other model, and she instantly became a sensation. Alec wants every girl on the planet to know, you are beautiful. It's okay to be quirky, it's fine to be shy. You don't have to go with the crowd. And that is the art for this one. The next story is about Alfonsina Strutter. I probably completely butchered her name. Apologies. Once there was a girl who could ride a bike so fast you could barely see her. Don't go so fast, Alfonsina. Her parents would scream. Too late, she had already whizzed past. When she got married, her family hoped that she would finally give up this crazy idea of becoming a cyclist. Instead, on her wedding day, her husband gifted her a brand new racing bike. They moved to Milan, and Alfonsina started to train professionally. She was so fast and so strong that a few years later she entered the Giro d'Italia, one of the toughest races in the world. No other woman had ever attempted it before. She'll never make it, people said, but nobody could stop her. The race was long and strenuous, with 21-day-long stages along some of the steepest mountain roads in Europe. Of the 90 cyclists who started out, only 30 made it across the finish line. She was one of them. She was greeted as a hero. The next year, she was barred from competing. Giro d'Italia is a men's race, the officials declared, but that didn't stop her either. She raced all the same, and she set a speed record that stood for 26 years, even though she rode a 44-pound one-gear bike. She would be happy to know that things have changed a lot since then, Now women's cycling racing is hugely popular. It's even an Olympic sport. The next story is about Alicia Alonso. Once upon a time, there was a blind girl. Oh, she was a ballerina, by the way. Once upon a time, there was a blind girl who became a great ballerina. Her name was Alicia. Alicia grew up sighted, and was already a wonderful ballerina with a great career ahead of her. When she fell ill, her eyesight got worse and worse. She was forced to stay in bed for months without moving, but Alicia had to dance. So she danced in the only way she could. I danced to my mind, blinded, motionless, flat on my back. I taught myself to dance. One day, the New York ballet prima ballerina injured herself. They called Alicia to step in. She was already partly blind, but how could she say no? The ballet was Giselle. As soon as she started to dance, the audience fell in love with her. Alicia danced with grace and confidence, even though she could barely see. She trained her parents to be exactly where she needed them, just at the right time. Her style was so unique that she was asked to dance with a ballet company all over the world. But her dream was to bring classic ballet to Cuba, her home country. Back from her travels, she started to teach classical ballet to Cuban dancers. She founded the Alicia Alonso Ballet Company, which later became the Ballet Nacional de Cuba. The next story we have is Mina Gurubh Fakim. Apologies if I did butcher her name. President and scientist. In an island nation in the Indian Ocean called Mauritius, there lived a girl who wanted to know everything about plants. Her name was Amina. Amina studied biodiversity. She analysed hundreds of aromatic and medicinal I can't speak, look at me, herbs and flowers. She studied their properties and travelled to rural villages to learn from traditional healers how they used plants in their rituals. For Amina, plants were like friends. Her favourite tree was the baobab because it's so useful. It stores water in its trunks, its leaves, and can cure infections, and its fruit, called monkey apple, contains more proteins than human milk. Amina thought that a lot could be learned from plants. Plants like bejoin, for example. The leaves of the bejoin are different shapes and sizes. Animals won't eat plants they don't recognise, so they tend to leave this plant alone. Quite smart, don't you think? Amina thought of plants as living biological labs full of vital information for humans and every other species. Every time a forest is cut down, we lose an entire laboratory, a lab that we will never ever recover. Amina Gurubh was elected president, and every day she fights hard for all the inhabitants of her country, people, animals, and of course, plants. And there is the image for this one. Here we are. Here is the story about Amelia Earhart, and of course, if you saw my facts video, one of the facts was about Amelia Earhart, and I had no idea of her backstory, and people commented about it, and so I can, probably learn about it here as well. Once upon a time, a girl named Amelia saved enough money to buy a yellow aeroplane. That's a lot of money. She called it the Canary. A few years later, she became the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean. It was a dangerous flight. Her tiny plane was tossed around by strong winds and icy storms. She kept herself going with a can of tomato juice sucked through a straw. After almost 15 hours, she touched down in a field in Northern Ireland, much to the surprise of the cows. "Have you come far?" the farmer asked her. All the way from America, she laughed. Amelia loved to fly, and she loved to do things no one had ever done before. Her biggest challenge was to be the first woman to fly around the world. She could only take a small bag, as all the space in the plane had to be used for fuel. Her long flight was going well. She was supposed to land on a tiny Holland island, but never got there. In her last transmission, Amelia said she was flying through clouds and was running low on fuel. Her plane disappeared somewhere over the Pacific Ocean and was never found. Before leaving, she wrote, "I'm quite aware of the hazards. I want to do it because I want to. Women must try to do the same things that men have tried. If they fail, their failure must be a challenge to others." Very wise words. And here's a quote from her. "Adventure is worthwhile in itself." I just realised how red this entire setup is, and I'm just trying to find where I can just turn down. There we are, that's a lot better, that's a lot less red. The next story we have is about Amna AlHada. AlHada, a weightlifter. Once upon a time, there was a journalist named Mana. Mana was not happy. She was overweight and unfit. One day, she said to herself, "You can do much more than this. Just do something. Go for a walk." And that's what she did. She enjoyed her walks so much she wanted to do more. She ran long distances, she sprinted, she started to work out at the gym. When she discovered weightlifting, she knew this was a sport for her. Amna's life changed when the International Weightlifting Federation allowed Muslim women to compete in an unitard, an outfit that covers all skin. She started competing in Europe and America and became an icon for Muslim girls across the world. "I like being strong," says Amna. "Being a girl does not mean you can't be as strong as a boy, or even stronger." She liked weightlifting so much that she started training for the Olympics Games in Rio. She thinks everyone should find a sport they like and practice it. Whatever your age, religion, ethnicity, sport is good for everyone. She says it creates peace and unites nations. No matter what the challenges are, never walk away from your dream. The more you persist, the closer you are going to get to your goals. When things get tough, just get tougher. Couldn't agree more. The next story on our list is Anne McSiniski. Anne, she's an inventor. Once there was a girl who couldn't study when it was dark because her house didn't have electricity. One day, her friend Anne came to visit, and together they talked about the issue. Anne was great at building things, and she was especially passionate about transistors, devices that regulate the flow of electric current. "What if I could invent a flashlight that was powered by your body?" Anne asked her friends. "After all, our bodies give off a lot of energy in forms of heat." The girls got very excited. Just think of how many people could have electricity if this worked. Anne was just 15 years old, but she already had a lot of experience taking things apart and putting them back together. So she started to work on this mysterious new flashlight. She called it the hollow flashlight because she built it using a hollow aluminium tube. When she presented it to the Google Science Fair, she won first prize. It's the first flashlight that doesn't need batteries, wind or sun, just some body heat. Today, Anne is considered one of the most promising inventors of our time. Her dream is to make hollow flashlights available for free to everyone in the world who can't afford electricity. "I like the idea of using technology to make the world a better place and to keep our environment clean," she says. Wow, that's quite a recent one. She was born in 1997. And her quote is, "If you were alive, you produce some light." Which has multiple meanings, which is quite cool. Our next story is Anna Politkovskiana. Actually, I'll just show it there because I'm very bad with names. Apologies. Once upon a time, in Russia, many books were forbidden. Some of these were by writers that a little girl called Anna loved. Anna's parents used to smuggle in her favourite books so she could read to her heart's content. Anna grew up and became a journalist when a part of Russia called Chechnya wanted to break away and become an independent nation. The Russian government sent in its troops to stop them. A brutal war broke out. Anna decided that she had to write. She wanted to tell the world what was really happening. The Russian government did not like it at all. "Why are you putting your life at risk?" Anna's husband asked. "Risk is part of my profession," she answered. "I know that something may happen to me. I just want my article to make the world better." Many bad things happened, but Anna was brave. Once she had to run all night long in the hills to escape from the Russian security services. People on both sides wanted to stop her from telling the truth. Someone even put poison in her tea to try and get rid of her. But despite these dangers, she bravely carried on telling the truth about everything she saw. Anna continued to risk her life until she died, writing the truth in order to make the world a better place. There she is. We'll go about 3 more. So, our next story is about Artemisia Gentileschi. She's a painter, and again, I butchered her name, I know. Once there was a girl who was an amazing painter, and she was beautiful and strong. Her father was also a painter and trader in the studios from the time she was little. By the time she was 17 years old, she had already painted several masterpieces. Yet, people were sceptical about her. "How can she paint like this?" they whispered to each other. At that time, most women were not even allowed to get close to famous art studios. One day, her father asked his friends, the famous painter Agostino Tassi, to teach her perspective how to create a 3-dimensional space on a flat surface. Agostino wanted his star pupil to also be his lover. "I promise I will marry you," he told her. She kept saying no. Things became so bad that she finally told her father what was going on. Her father believed her, and even though Agostino was a powerful man and a dangerous enemy, Orazio, her father, took him to court. During the trial, Agostino denied doing anything wrong. Artemisia, again sorry I butchered her name, faced terrible pressure but stuck to the truth and didn't give in. In the end, Agostino was found guilty. Today, Artemisia is considered one of the greatest painters of all time. And I quote, it's a good quote, "As long as I live, I will have control over my being." That was from 1658. It's very important to today's time as well. The next story is about Ashley Foylik, a motocross racer. A little girl called Ashley was playing in the kitchen when some pans fell off the table with a massive crash. Ashley didn't even turn around. Her mum and dad decided to get her a hearing test. When the results came back, they found out that her daughter was deaf. They learned sign language and sent Ashley to camp with other deaf kids so that she could learn from them and build up her self-confidence. Ashley's father and her grandfather loved motorcycles, so they gave her a Pee-wee motorbike when she was 3. The 3 of them would head to the woods, each of them on their own motorcycle. Ashley loved these outings, and she started dreaming about becoming a motocross racer. Most people told her it was impossible. Hearing is really important in motocross, they said. The sound of the engine tells you when to shift gears. You have to be able to hear where the other riders are. But Ashley could feel from the engine's vibrations when to change gears. She looked for shadows in the corners of her eye and knew when someone was getting close. In 5 years, she won 4 national titles. She fell many times. Ashley broke her left arm, her right wrist, her right ankle, her collarbone 3 times, and her 2 front teeth, but she always recovered and got back on her bike. Ashley has a pickup truck parked in her driveway. On the back of a bumper, a sticker reads, "Honk if you want, I'm deaf." That's the art for this one. And we'll do one last more. Now we have Astrid Lindgren. She's a writer. Once there was a girl who lived on a farm with her big family. She would spend entire days roaming free in the fields with her brothers and sisters. But she also helped take care of the farm animals, not just the small ones like chickens and ducks, even the big ones like cows and horses. Her name was Astrid. She was quite a rebellious spirit. She was strong, brave, never scared of being alone, and she could do all sorts of things: cook, clean, fix a bike, walk along rooftops, fight off bullies, make up fantastic stories. Sound familiar? Well, if you've ever read about another little girl who was strong, brave and fearless called Pippi Longstocking, of course, you wouldn't be surprised to learn that Astrid was the author of the brilliant book. When Pippi Longstocking was published, lots of adults discovered Pippi is too rebellious, they said. Our children would think being disobedient is okay. Children, on the other hand, absolutely loved it. Pippi didn't just say no without reason. She showed young readers the importance of being independent while always caring for others. Today, Pippi Longstocking is one of the best beloved books in children's literature. Astrid went on to write and publish many more books, always depicting strong children in charge of their own adventures. So whenever you're in trouble for something you did, grab a copy of Pippi Longstocking. She'll always be there to help you. And there she is. So, I hope you guys did enjoy those short stories. And not only was they, relaxing, they were quite motivational, some of them. Apologies about the dog, I'll wrap up. They're quite motivational. So hopefully it could lift some spirits as well. Anyways, thank you very, very much for